The Case of the Derelict Daughter, Episode 1. Dames. I smelled the misty perfume before the dame even knocked on the door. Her red velvet gloves almost black against the frosted glass of my little office. Rap, rap, the broad's petite hand hit the glass. Come in, I addressed her, pretending to read the paper as that door swung open. My eye watched as the black script etched upon the glass, reading Jackson Kane Investigations, went out of focus as it swung by. The redhead dames that swayed into my office looked like $1,000,000, but I knew who those bucks belonged to, and buddy, I didn't want any part of that. Ma'am, I asked, a cigar smoking in my ashtray almost out, while I read the funny papers. Hell, the peanuts looked to be much more my speed today. Sure, much better than a high society socialite who also happened to be a senator's wife. I left my crossed legs up on the desk, as if disinterested, on the verge of hostile even. Boy, do I know how to turn down money, and this ivory Irish dame, she was money, yeah, you bet. I have a problem, the woman said after long moments standing in front of the desk, her husky voice betraying her 20-some-odd years. The cradle-robbing senator, some had called him in the papers. I grunted. Everyone who walks through that door has a problem, lady. I could almost feel the impatience coming off of the out-of-place dame. Mr. Kane, I presume then? She asked, her voice annoyed, and not just sultry. I dropped the paper and looked up into her mesmerizing sea-green eyes. I don't clean things up, sweetheart, I said, my face as serious as I could make it. If the senator needs that kind of thing done, I'm sure he knows much more capable people than I do. The beautiful ivory face cracked just a bit, revealing a little true worry. Mr. Kane, this isn't that kind of matter, though I almost wish it were. She paused, pulling the long red velvet gloves off her little petite hands, red curled locks bouncing as she did so at her shoulders. May I sit? She asked and looked around. I grimaced inwardly, but hell, if I was going to listen to her, I might as well consider getting a paycheck. A paycheck was a paycheck. I waved at the little chair in front of my big black desk. My stepdaughter has gone well. She coughed into her hand, and if I'd been the bastard that so many people thought me, I demanded why she's coughing in my office and didn't wear a mask, given the senator's views after all. But I held it back. Sorta. I needed to pay the rent after all. We suspect she's joined a cult. Or we think so. Her eyes had what looked like a sincere worry to them. And still, I smelled a rat. I don't believe you, I told her. Alice Green Washington was almost more well known than the husband she'd married a few years back, the United States Senator. Why the hell would she need a private dick and a public asshole like me to look into cult activities featuring the senator's virginal daughter? A daughter, I might add, that would have been older than her stepmom that sat before me. They had the FBI for crying out loud. She looked at me in astonishment, as if no one had ever called her on her bologna sausage, as the culture would put it, before. We cannot bring the government into this, she told me, understanding what I was kind of getting at. Why the hell not, lady? I asked, leaning back and taking the now unlit cigar into my mouth. Mr. Kane, she began, but I held up a hand, looked around at my cluttered desk for the lighter, and lit my cigar. I leaned back, make myself more comfortable, getting ready for a really good lie. Now comfortable, I waved her to continue. Well, her boyfriend was murdered in what some believe was a ritual fashion, and, well, there's a recording out there of Jeff threatening the boy. Some may believe that he'd set the whole thing up and shuffled his daughter off to cover it all up. Yep, this dame was losing it. Her accent slipped. I could tell. As experienced as I was with dames breaking shit over my head or smashing my car with a forklift, well, you know, the usual, regular breakup stuff. I could also tell it wasn't the girl Alice was worried about. It was her, or the senator's reputation. Where? I asked. Texas somewhere, near Dallas, I think. Huh, I'll look into it, but this'll cost you 3 G's a day plus expenses. It'll be 5 G's above that if I even take the damn case, I told her. I mean, if you're gonna have to go back to near your hometown to investigate a cult a senator's daughter might need to be saved from, well then, I'm gonna make a little bit of loot off of this thing. The woman just nodded and handed me a white business card. The only thing etched upon its surface was a phone number. Tell the man on the other end of that line the terms you want, and there's a bonus of $50,000 if you're successful. I stood suddenly and sharply and looked her dead in the eye, her business dress more provocative than she probably thought. Successful at what, sweetheart? She smiled, a smile that shouldn't have been on the face of a married stepmother concerned for her child's well-being, but a smile that belonged on the face of a predator. I'm old enough to be your mother, she said, and held out her hand almost demurely, as if to shake on the deal. As our skin touched, I felt a jolt, and at first, though I knew could be nothing more than the static electricity produced when she pulled her gloves off, there was something familiar, close but elusive. Before I could regain my senses to speak, I was left standing in the little office alone, mystified at what had just happened. Her ass swaying like the proverbial cats trapped in a burlap sack. What the hell did the crazy dame meant by old enough to be my mom? I'd been in Iraq when she'd been bored, for God's sake. Dames, I tell you, all man's problems come from crazy fucking dames. Hello, everybody, and thank you for listening to the first episode of The Case of the Derelict Daughter, Dames. This is, if you noticed, for those of you who've listened, this is kind of a retelling of a urban fantasy that I wrote called House of Cain. And so I wanted to do something for Noir November. And so this is the first thing that popped into my mind. And my girlfriend, soon-to-be fiance, thought it was a very good idea. I wrote it out, and she seemed to like it. So I apologize, the voices aren't nearly as noir as I wanted them to, but I am no voice actor. So please, if you like this, share it out there. Hit that little like button. If you disliked it, hit that too. I need to know. And leave a comment as to why you didn't like it. Speculate on where it's going. Let me know what you think. As always, I just like to tell everybody, your life is your story. It's the most important one you'll ever write. So make it a great one. Good night.